You're a
I
veteran
just
in the game.
found out that I suck at selling.
Really?
Yes. All right.
know what?
So
Do you?
we lost a client because there was a mismatch in expectation
Expectations.
versus what we were doing.
Right.
Right. So I had seen this writing on the wall, like it was coming.
Yeah.
Like it was like a freight train heading for a wall.
It was inevitable.
Immovable object.
Is this
whatever.
anybody I know?
So no.
Okay.
No, this is one of our so the issue was I needed to present a case on why we needed to change the fee and pretty much almost like 2.5x our current fee. I could not convince this person.
That's a hard sell, though.
It's not a hard sell because the next CPA that's going to work for this client
It's 2.5.
is actually even more.
What's going on, beautiful people? Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Grind.
BTG.
Hey, if this is your first time tuning in, welcome. And please don't forget to hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any of our future content. Now, our podcast is about business and lifestyle. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, please make sure to like, share, and comment, please. And also subscribe. My name is Kay.
My name's Alan.
And I'm Tosin. And today,
What are we talking about?
actually, no, we're not talking about anything.
What we
I'm just
talking-
going to ask you a question.
Okay.
I'm just going to ask you a question. All right, let's just throw it out there. We'll
It's
see where it goes.
interrogators.
All right.
What you got, boss?
I have this question, right? It's a wish question, all right? So make it as open as possible, all right? Because we also want some of our listeners and, viewers to learn from this.
Right.
Okay.
Learn from it.
So my question is, all right, I'm not going to give you guys too much time to think.
Okay.
Well, I guess the second person that answers will, unfortunately.
Okay.
Is this Jeopardy?
If you were to go back to the beginning of your business entrepreneurship journey with all of the knowledge you have today, what are 5 things
I have a
you would
qualifier.
do?
Let me ask something.
Oh, okay.
Do we have knowledge of the history?
Yeah, you have, I mean, like what you know today, everything you know today.
And everything's going to go the same way in the future?
No, I mean, like,
Is that just-
or
that's
maybe
just
how
the
would
almanac from Back to the Future.
How would you start it off differently?
Oh,
like,
okay,
what would you do differently so that you are at a better in your mind spot today?
Yeah.
Than where you are today.
Specific to my business or specific to, or just not specific?
I'm going to let you think about that.
No, I'm just asking.
I would say specific to your business.
Okay, so he go
So
first. I
for
already know
me,
already.
I think that my mindset will be different, right? Because there's a lot of misconception about starting a business. And I was part of that. You get what I'm saying? You need to develop, I wish I would have had developed this entrepreneurship mindset. A lot of times when you want to start a business, the misconception is that, number one, you need a lot of money to start. That's a fact. You don't really need that. Number 2, you need to quit your job. I quit my job, to give it 100%, right? And, in hindsight, I realized that, okay, I quit my job, but then I ended up becoming the biggest expense to my company, which burned my, run rate as, very quickly.
Because
you have to
just
collect-
because you want to do
Exactly.
business, your bills don't stop, right?
Exactly.
They don't say, oh yeah, we'll
Number
stop with
3,
you.
number 3 misconception. If you build it, people are going to buy it.
Oh, Steve Jobs didn't happen. You build it, they'll come. You ain't
And
Steve Jobs.
People need to realize that it's not enough for you to build it. Your marketing strategy has to be on point.
Yeah.
For you to be able to say, because everything is about narrative. For you to be able to put it out there and say, hey guys, this is what I built. This is the solution that we're solving. And you need to really pinpoint what you're building and how it's going to make people feel, right? I also thought I needed to have a perfect business plan, right? And one thing I realize now is that your business plan is going to change as you learn.
Yeah.
Right? So your business plan does not have to be perfect from day one. You just need to have clarity on your business model and how things are going to be able to function. And
That's
then
4.
last one I thought that money was going to come quickly. I thought that, hey, as soon as I put this thing out.
What do you mean, revenues or investments? Oh, profits. Okay.
I thought that, like, hey, as soon
but real quick, what is profits? Like, I want you to define profits.
So
what do you mean by that?
So when I mean profit, so once the revenue comes in, after we've, all the expenditures, after everything is gone out, what is the amount that's left?
Profit.
That's what we call profit, right? So for me, I didn't really understand, all the expenditures that it took to run a company. My mindset was, you mean to tell me that I'm going to onboard 100 customers? Each of them is going to pay like $5? And then boom, like that's my mindset. That's the way I'm thinking. But I'm not thinking about all the costs.
Yeah.
To onboard somebody, to do KYC, know your customer, the tools that you're going to be using, all the people that you're going to be speaking to, all these things, they all add up, right? So there's a lot more, but I think the number one thing that I would have changed is my mindset at the beginning, because that would have, at least changed the trajectory of, what I was able to accomplish.
I think those are all good points. No, seriously. I think those are all good points. I was thinking as you were talking, applying some of what you said to mine.
Because mine was misconceptions, right?
In mine, yeah. I think that what I would have done, number one, is I would have changed my mindset on location. When I opened my practice, I thought I was airtight. Right? I really did a real SWOT analysis, but sometimes you can be wrong, right? And things can change out of your control, right? So I was a young black man who looked very young, didn't have this beard, had to grow this beard to look older. And so, when I was an associate, people often ask, oh yeah, you must be the new assistant in training. I'm like, no, I'm the doctor. And I graduated, I guess, relatively young from dental school. And then, when I opened my office, they would say, they would ask for Dr. Charles, I'd be like, yeah, can I help you? They're like, senior, can I get your dad?
Senior.
Literally. And I'm like, so, I thought that like, one, I would go to a transient area since I just moved to Dallas in that time, and to capture the people who moved in there, right? And then to grow my brand and so forth, rather than going to established areas and having a whole bunch of competition. But on the flip side of that, I didn't have a way to measure. I had a way to measure the influx and growing population, right? But I didn't have a way to measure the fact that the attrition rate is like tenfold, right? So every month people are moving away.
Yeah.
So I have to constantly grab new clients and new patients and so forth. But I didn't have a way to, before starting, calculate the cost of acquisition constantly. I didn't factor in the fact that like, okay, in 5 years I should be growing to this. Yes, but you're 20%, 30% of it is depleting every year.
So just the first 20 or 30 is replenishing.
Right, exactly.
Before you even talk about growth.
Exactly. So I didn't factor in the impact of that. And then another thing I would say is that I would have found myself a really good person to manage, which I did, but they moved. I think I would have done a better job of finding the person and giving them ownership, because then it's their baby too. And they treated the office like that. Oh, maybe a little bit too much so, to where sometimes it was a little bit abrasive towards everyone else. And so I was like, yeah, maybe a little bit, whatever. We'll figure it out later. 3 is I tried to expand too quickly. So I had the main thing finally being good. And as soon as you're like, oh yeah, I'm doing good, but not like, insanely stable, right? I was like, let's go to 2 and 3. Like it's too many things at once.
Yeah.
And at that point, I hadn't have a stable, this was stable and it was good, but it still required me. Like I wasn't fully replaced in that location before I went to 2. So at one point I was straddling the 2 locations and trying to bring on an associate and still it was just too many things. You can only work on one project at a time. I would say 3, I probably wouldn't have opened a startup because that's what I did. I started with 0 patients. zero patience, zero people, and had to build it up. And I probably would have focused more, and I was on the right trajectory. I embraced a lot of content early on to kind of, educate people, get them familiar with me, because I felt like I was working fighting an uphill battle, and that people felt like, you're young, what do you know? So you got to show them what you know, right? The other thing I would say is that
I think this is your fifth. Go ahead.
The other thing I would say is that I would have bought a existing practice. I think that was hard for me because I was thinking more like how can I buy an existing practice and the staff that is much older than me give me the respect, right? And so that was a little thing for me, because I've worked in other offices where I felt like I wasn't respected, and I was like, bro, I'm the coldest one in this office. I'm like the most skilled one in this office. Y'all go give me my respect. I ain't got to deal with this. And so I think having a already established clientele and having a, introducing and being patient to understand it's going to take a time for the patients and the staff to gain trust, but also, would be okay. And that also, you would have a steady, already established revenue, right? Source of revenue. And then you could open your own startup. So that's kind of what I would have done. But I was so like gung-ho. I'm like, I don't need this. I'm not going to spend my time convincing everybody who I am. I'm going to start my own thing, do my own thing. I am the magic in this, and I did it. And the thing is, I had a little bit of like confidence, although I was scared. I was like, I've been scared of other things in my life, but that didn't stop me. Like, if I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail. Let me hurry up and fail so I can figure it out and do it again. And I'm like, fail fast type thing. And so like, I was like, I got my numbers here and this, that, and that. And my whole point about picking a less transient, more established suburb and whatnot, being in a suburb, people don't move. They just live there, right? So you're growing every year easier with less marketing efforts. And post-COVID, a lot of people moved out into suburbs.
That's right.
So we had a vacuum. Actually, a lot of the major corporate and big dental offices shut down. They could not make it. So like, I was like, well, I guess I'm still standing. So I don't know if this is good or bad. Like, am I done for still remaining, or am I just withstanding? But that's a long-winded way of saying the easy button. I wasn't, I guess, to make a long story short, is that you're not aware that it could be more difficult, and what you think is a pretty airtight plan for the most part, it may not be. And you should like really, really seek advice of those who have done what you've done and failed and learned, so you can see the shortcomings of it first and do a better risk analysis. I only ask people who are successful, but I learned later on, because they struggled later on, their success was just being at the right place at the right time and running with it, versus like the people who I feel like are really good at what they do. They hit the speed bump, they hit their head, they fell, they got back up. They didn't go from day one being great, because some people confuse luck with being good at something. If you're not battle tested, you're just lucky. I mean, you could be good, but until you're battle tested, there's no way to prove whether you're good or lucky. And I think a lot of people that I sought advice for that were successful were actually lucky, because when stuff got hard, they were struggling. Some of them were like, I can't do this. So I'm like, oh, so you were just lucky the whole time. Versus him, he's bumped his head 100 times in the beginning, stood still, and now things are rough. He's like, been here, and just kept going this way. But that's all I got to say, man.
But so what are your misconceptions? Because I'm curious.
I'm trying to, you guys have said some good things, wrapped it up really well. So I'm going to try and give you guys 5 things that are slightly different. Just don't hold me to it. All right.
Well, I mean, mine were misconceptions, but I'll still get back to, what I would do different now. Go ahead.
So, I mean, I think what we would do different is also part of misconceptions, right? You thought, and now you think something different, right? So, I would say first things first. I've been running my business for about 15 years now.
Ooh. You're a
I
veteran in
just
the game.
found out that I suck at selling.
Really?
Yes. All right.
You know what?
So
Do you?
Yeah,
so
I can believe that.
I can believe that, but I'm like,
So
you couldn't have
He's not, a
got
good,
here.
he's not a good salesman.
no.
But you
You
couldn't
don't
have got
know.
here.
Yeah, I'm good at. It's a subtle salesmanship that I suck at. Right.
That's what I'm
Give an
saying.
example.
I can. So here's an example. We lost a client because there was a mismatch in expectation
Expectations.
versus what we were doing.
Right.
Right. So I had seen this writing on the wall, like it was coming.
Yeah.
Like it was like a freight train heading for a wall.
And it was inevitable.
Immovable object.
Is this
Whatever.
anybody I know?
So no.
Okay.
No, this is one of our, yeah. So the issue was I needed to present a case on why we needed to change the fee and pretty much almost like 2.5x our current fee. I could not convince this person.
That's a hard sell, though.
It's not a hard sell because the next CPA that's going to work for this
It's
client
2.5.
is actually even more.
Well, I'm saying that's
And
a
they're
hard
going
sell.
to-
That's a hard sell, given that they started here, and that's why.
No, but
versus
as
entering-
a consultant, I need to be able, if that's what you really need, I need to be able to convince you that the value that I provide is going to be worth that amount. Because if you do go out there, you'll probably get it the same or even more. So what is the difference?
Okay, so let me understand this. The person was wanting, their expectations were more services, but they're paying for less services. And you were
Correct.
trying
But
to,
they wanted those top tier services at the rates that they were
the lower
currently
rate.
paying.
but somebody else came. But you know what? It doesn't. I'll say that there's a bias in the sense that maybe you're a bad salesman. I don't know, but but you may have because I face this all the time. People come for consultations. They've been like
Yes.
5 other places,
Yes.
yada, 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 or they come to me first or whatever. To be in the second is always easier to be in the first because they've already. No, I'm serious.
They've already gotten worked,
Right.
And I've already pretty
you've
much
already-
somewhat convinced them that
exactly.
they needed whatever.
You've already pre-sold them, so now they're
Now
like,
you're making
well,
me okay. Maybe I need to scratch off one.
no,
because
the
I've been
first-
telling my team like,
No, because if it's a hard sale or convince on of the value, someone's already. It's not like sticker shock. They've already seen that number before, so it's like
Or something
okay.
close to it.
Yeah, so now they know. Okay, this is the market, right? Versus like if you're used to paying this. And now, like, they see a new sticker. Like, for instance, my mom was looking for a car, right? She was like, oh, I want to pay this amount. And I was like, what, you want a bicycle? When's the last time you got a car? Like, and she's watching us out there. She knows I said that. And then we went and saw a couple of other places. And she was like, oh, okay. I get it now.
Like her perspective
Yeah, her
started to
perspective.
change.
She's like, I guess that's what I got to pay. And I was like, yeah. But before it was like, no.
Hold on, but I want to hear that story though.
But a good salesperson, I feel, should be able to give you that value up front.
That's
You know,
true.
it's going to be a sticker shock no matter what. Why should we let the second person benefit from
Correct.
the hard work of having to do that hard
Well,
sale?
remind me to teach you how to close.
But
'cause-
percentage wise, right? You can't base it based
So
off
that's
the
what I
one.
was saying. I thought, I step up to the plate. I have probably like, and this might sound conceited, like a 99% close rate.
Okay, so then you're not a bad salesman.
However, but I look at it and say, hey, I can sell, let's just, for example, I can sell anything $5,000 and below, but I can't sell anything $5,000 and above.
then that's your fault.
Wait, no,
know.
not necessarily.
I do sales
that-
a lot.
But here's the thing, Tosin. Like
I love this. This just
'cause I
turned
do
into
all
an
this.
intervention.
I am obviously
Go ahead.
I've raised money.
Yeah.
Raising money it's basically sales,
Sales,
right?
selling
Yes.
So
Yes.
in your situation, right? In any situation, right? I'll give a car example, right? Let's say you're at a car dealership, right? You go to a car dealership, right? And as a salesperson, you're telling the buyer that, well, first you need to analyze the buyer to understand who you're dealing with. But you're telling the buyer that, hey, this thing is going to go from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. You're talking about all the bells and whistles. And guess
not what
what?
they want.
Somebody else might come and say, picture yourself in this car.
Right.
And as soon as you drive off, that woman, that lady that you've always wanted to get, just pull up right next to her and tell her to come in. And picture you and her both riding down the sunset with the
drop top.
with a drop top down.
But explain his issue.
You're selling feeling. You're selling outcome. Does that make sense?
I'll say this before he answers that. I think the issue is you if you can't sell above 5 because you don't believe in your service.
It's
enough
worth
to do that. So a part of you is not selling it.
No,
you're not creating. No,
he's assessing their pocket as well.
That's what I'm trying to say.
You're assessing the pocket.
You're thinking you think your services aren't worth that because if I tell you like the way example I give to people, they're like, oh, I don't want to spend $40K on a full mount reconstruction or whatever, and it's a lot, and I'm like, but that's your whole life, right? It's your whole life, right? You're gonna change the way you eat. You said you can't eat. You're going to change all your smiles. I've shown pictures of other people. I'm like, it's not sales. I believe in this. They're like, what you do? I'm like, in a heartbeat. Because you driving a $40,000 car and that car's poo after 5 years. Like, let's be real. Like, this is your body you're investing. And if you don't believe in it firmly in your heart, you can't make those claims and talk about it that confidently. So it has to be like, you have to assess yourself. I think it's because it's a barrier you haven't broken. So you haven't been able to feel that confidence of breaking it.
Okay, so let's reel it back in sales, right? That you're not as good of a salesperson before compared to now, right? That's one. What are the other 4?
You guys got me thinking now. You guys got me into cars and all that stuff. Dang, I don't want to move on, but we've got to move on.
That's a topic for another day. We didn't even throw you under the bus like that.
No,
how to be a great salesperson?
No, that's what I would do.
I think value. You gotta understand your person, and you gotta understand you, so you can create the value for the person.
So I think there has to be a separation between the person that is selling the value and the person that's delivering the value.
Yes.
Right. Maybe that's the way I'm trying to put it.
No, because
right? You're looking at it from your point of view where it's a need.
Yeah.
Right. That's fine. But I'm talking, I'm a BMW salesperson and now I get a job at a Bugatti sales, like a sales office. And these Bugattis are probably $1 million, whatever. It ain't no, BMWs do get expensive, but not,
Bugatti,
it's not
on average, yeah.
Tire of a Bugatti, like a tire change, right? Like, don't get a flat, okay? Type of thing.
You're not supposed to drive those.
It's gonna be like, maybe I can't sell it. I'm walking in there and be like, you know what? Maybe I'm just too used to selling BMWs that I've got to recognize that at this point, my skills are better used at something else than trying to be that salesperson for every single thing. Now, when we started, maybe let's put it this way. When we started the firm, for the first 15 years, so let's say, I was the only one closing. I was the only one closing every single client.
So you had a lot of reps.
Let's say 99% because there's some that will walk in and whatever, right? But most of them, I would be the one closing.
But they buy into you. That's the issue you're having now, though.
So that's going to be, so now that we can move off of that sales point, we're going to the second point is where it's kind of like everything was on me. When we started, something that I would do differently is
bringing people,
not just empower, but like give that responsibility and authority to others to also be the focus people.
Or if I add, have them in the room when you have that meeting and say, this is going to be your account manager.
I don't even need to be in the room at that point.
No, I'm just saying. So then it's a handoff in any business they have.
No, when you do a handoff, you're still there.
Yeah.
You'll still be the one that if that person messes up, they're going to contact you.
Then if you, how do you start a business, your business, when you're automatically starting with someone else? Because then you would have, I guess.
It's called a partnership.
Oh, you're talking about having partnerships.
No, but now that's what we're talking about.
Well, I'm saying because you're strapped for cash, so you don't have the bandwidth. Well, you're not strapped for cash.
Another way I would put it is that I would find the quickest way to hire myself.
Got it. But what I'm trying to say is that costs money.
It does.
Because you're going to be running in the red until they come up to yourself. That's what I was trying to say.
Which leads me to now my third point, right? My first point was, having like a sales expert helping out. Second part is how do I quickly replace myself?
Right.
Third is going to be, how do I make sure that my lifestyle doesn't change as my business becomes more successful? All right.
Because you do get dragged up.
It just happens, right? Because you're the one exerting most of the energy, like trying to get the business going, get it successful. And once you see that money coming in, it's like,
you're trying to look the part.
Not even look the part. I need to take care of myself. I need to take care of my family, get them some nice stuff, get them that BMW, whatever it is.
Lifestyle creep, right?
And then the lifestyle starts creeping.
Yeah.
Right. So if I was to go back, is that how would I put a limit? Like,
on your creep.
This is it. All right. We all have to agree. Because one thing I learned, which is going to be my fourth part, is how do you become defensive with successful wealth? One thing. Yes. So one thing I read is that, wealthy people, whenever they make investments, they're mainly defensive, right? Meaning that they are not about just taking blind risks. It's going to be about calculated risks or even no risk at all, right? Because they're probably doing some other things that are going to meet some kind of risk profile. So whenever they're investing, it doesn't have to be as risky as what I'm doing over here. I'm already risky over here. So why am I now risky over here too? Right. And then everywhere I'm risky just because I'm chasing returns. Yeah. Right. No, I need to be able to understand that, hey, if I have a primary business that's extremely successful, that is risk. Right. My customers can leave, my employees can do whatever. That's risky. So the success and the wealth that comes from that, I need to be a little bit more defensive with it.
Are you saying this from experience? Do you feel like when you started making a little bit more money, you were like, okay, I got to scale.
Oh, yeah.
Put in everything.
That's it.
Because there's
because
no get rich quick.
Because when you are successful in the business, and this kind of, takes off of what you were saying, when you're successful in one part, you think everything you touch turns to gold, right? And so somebody calls you, let's invest in that. All of a sudden, zero. You're like, nah, that was just a blip. And then you go into the next event. And
you start eating
then you start scaling, and you start doing this, and you start doing, we got to grow. All of a sudden, nothing is really structured in the end. And you start feeling holes.
I think, at the end of the day, like, people are always, you're always learning, right? At the end of the day. And I think that those learning is what's making us better, right?
Yeah.
It's like, there's a reason why the person that wins $1 million today is less likely to be able to keep the money versus somebody who worked for $1 million.
That's
because
right.
for you to earn that $1 million, there are some things that you have to do, some skill set that you have to, work for, some leadership traits that you have to get, right?
Some structure,
and structures.
Habits.
And those things, they really help you to be able to manage the money, right? Versus, you just want $1 million, boom, you're going to blow it, right? You guys talked about the operational aspect of the business, right? But I think that there are also people out there that, maybe it's the validation of their business idea is where they messed up, right? Not being able to really understand the niche where, they're targeting, and also not doing the proper market research to see like, hey, is the business that I actually want to start, is it viable? Because at the end of the day, we all know the one true thing about business is that you have to be solving a problem. Yeah. If you're not solving a problem, you will not make money, right? Yeah. And then I think also a lot of people, we get into this mindset of wanting to put a lot of money into something that has not been validated, right? The reason why we have MVP, which is minimum viable product, is that you want to put out the least amount of money on something to see how the market reacts, right? one of the things I wish I would have done also is maybe creating a waiting list, right? To see like, hey, I got this thing coming out. It's going to do X, Y, Z, and it's going to come out on so date. So if you know you're interested, get on the waiting list.
Yep.
If I'm expecting 1,000 people and 5 people sign up,
And then you're like, nah,
then maybe that's not the best business idea for me to get into, right? Yeah. So at the end of the day, like, you know, whether you are, you know, it's about whether you're thinking about the misconception of starting a business, or whether you are thinking about how to validate your business idea to make sure that that actually works, or whether your business idea works and then you're navigating through the operations of your business. I think that those problems are good, because what it does is it makes you better. And there's that saying, when you know better, you'll do better. You know? Right. So that's it for today. Really appreciate you. Can y'all please drop it in the comment section and let us know, if you have a business, what is something that you know today, right? Or should I say, what is something that if you knew back then?
No, if you were to go back,
to the
with
future,
all of the knowledge you have today, what would you do differently?
What would you do differently? If y'all can drop that in the comment section, we'll appreciate it. And y'all can follow me on One Horizon, at One Horizon on Instagram. Alan, where can they find you?
At I am ADDS on Instagram.
Tosin Omotayo. I'm easy.
Yeah. And guys, please, we're growing, so please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, peace.
Peace.